Greetings, curious acolytes, and welcome back to the channel. Recently, we did a video answering the question of why Darth Vader and Darth Sidious neglected the use of ancient darkside artifacts, of which many of the ancient Dark Lords seem so fond of. In that video, we briefly mentioned that partially, modern Sith abandoned these artifacts due to the repercussions that a few of them had, and the deadliness even to the wielder. The thing about the dark side that many should understand is that it grants great power, but at a terrible cost of its own. The cost often brings great pain, or demands the sacrifice of something dear to the wearer. Today, we have decided to document and break down 5 of the most dangerous Sith artifacts in galactic history. This list will cover artifacts that are dangerous to the wearer just as they are to the victim, encompassing the very term of dangerous. So, without further ado, acolytes of a galaxy far, far away, let us begin on our dark tale. We should also note, however, that these artifacts are in no particular order. Number 5. The Yoke of Seeming. Upon first landing on the planet of Korriban, Ajunta Pall and his Dark Jedi followers would quickly establish themselves as the new rulers of the Sith pure-blooded people. In doing so, his compatriot Saurus Zozan, along with a few others, decided to raid the tombs of their fallen kings and plunder the treasures within of what originated of the Sith purebloods. Curious about the powers of the first ancient masters, focusing less on material wealth, the Dark Jedi were far more interested in the arcane secrets of the dark side, which lied in wait deep within Korriban's Valley of Kings. The Valley of Kings in Star Wars lore being the resting place for many dark and powerful ancient Sith Lords before the arrival of the Dark Jedi. Saurus Sin recorded many of her findings, which included a great many of these artifacts. One such artifact was the Yoke of Seeming. The Yoke of Seeming was a dark side amulet, which had the power to grant its wearer the ability to change their appearance at will. The cost of this, though, was that the amulet would burn the wearer's flesh while it was active. Implications of this artifact in the hands of a Sith assassin would make it a lethal weapon. For a Sith Lord, the burning of the flesh would be a little consequence due to the fact that they could just draw upon that pain to bolster the dark side within themselves. In a way, it was even an advantage. However, Sin was remiss that she wouldn't be able to study the artifact further, as one of her Dark Jedi compatriots, Zozan, had seized the artifact for himself, claiming it for his own. Number 4, we have the Gauntlet of Crash the Younger. After the death of Lord Ragnos, the golden age of the Sith Empire died and came to an end with him, and the ruling of the old empire fell to the shoulders of the council. There would soon be a trial held to decide who would be the succeeding Dark Lord of the Sith to become the new emperor. There were 2 contenders. These contenders were named Ludo Kresh and Naga Sadow. Naga Sadow was of the belief that the Empire had grown stagnant and that they needed to expand out and challenge the Republic, and in doing though, ensure that their order could grow stronger in the coming conflict. In opposition, Ludo Kresh on the other hand was far more conservative and wanted to simply try to preserve what Ragnos had orchestrated for the Sith Empire, keeping what they had built. Through some cunning manipulation, Sadow was able to force a war between the Republic and the Sith anyway, going directly against Ludo Kresh. This would spark what is known as the Great Hyperspace War. Sometime during this period, Ludo Kresh would craft a weapon for his son, Elko. This weapon was supposed to make him invincible. This was the Gauntlet of Crash the Younger. The gauntlet's make was composed of 5 linked oval plates formed of an unknown black material, each capped with a red gem crested with gold. The gauntlet had the power of preventing anything from touching the wearer without their consent, blasting aside anything that attempted to do so with a surge of dark side energies. The armor piece was strong enough to defend against even lightsaber strikes. Not only this, but it also enabled the wearer to purposefully direct such blasts towards chosen targets at a whim, without even needing to turn and face them, simply sensing it, as the gauntlet would alert them. Despite the power of this item, however, it came with a few caveats. The protection wasn't absolute, as again, it only defended the wearer from attacks received without consent, but not from those who do, meaning that the gauntlet most likely wouldn't defend the wearer if they were to be in an established duel. Sith of the time were often very prone to challenging each other to duels in order to obtain more power. In fact, this is how the ancient Sith settled most things. In one of these cases, again by virtue of an agreed upon duel, the Gauntlet wouldn't provide coverage for the damage taken, believing it to be consensual. However, that still makes it a powerful tool against assassins. The other caveat is that the Gauntlet had to be fully worn for the effects to take place, not simply held. At number 3 we have one of my personal favorite, the Scepter of Ragnos. Those who frequent this channel will know of the Sith Lord Martynas Ragnos. Martynas Ragnos was a half-breed Lord of the Sith who existed in the direct lineage of Ajunta Pal, the first ever Dark Jedi to land on Korriban. Martynas Ragnos was an acolyte of the dark side that was very powerful and gifted in Sith sorcery, and with his power, he created a great many artifacts in his name. Many will consider Martynas Ragnos the most powerful Dark Lord to have ever lived, and certainly one of the most influential. This Dark Lord would actually be the one who would usher in the golden age of the Sith Empire under his direct rule. During this time, the Sith Empire would expand out and conquer many worlds while building up their own civilization in their homestead. For a time, the Galactic Republic and the Sith Empire coexisted in relative peace, being mostly ignorant of the other. The most famous artifact, however, constructed by this great and powerful Sith was his own scepter. This scepter was so unique and powerful that it could drain the life and force energy out of any living thing, just as Darth Nihilus did. However, what makes this item so notable is that it didn't just absorb force energy, it could then redistribute it as well as it desired. It could send beams of energy or blasts of dark side power. However, when used on a person, the scepter could imbue them with power and make them force sensitive, more attuned to the force. The implications of such a power are absolutely massive in the mythos. The idea that one could actually manipulate someone's midichlorians in a way that even Darth Plagueis didn't think of, making a regular person a force sensitive. 14 years after the Battle of Yavin, or for easier reference, about 10 years after the Battle of Endor, Dark Jedi Tavion Axmus obtained the scepter from a collector and used it to siphon all of the energy out of many places, including even the moon of Yavin 4. With the energy stored within the scepter, she breathed new life into the cult of Ragnos, making her own army of force sensitives by imbuing them with the power of the scepter. However, during this time, the spirit of Martynas Ragnos had awoken and ultimately decided to possess her, using her new army given to him as a means to bring about his second coming to the galaxy. The scepter would be eventually destroyed, however, by the Jedi Knight Jaden Korr. When this happened, all those who were given the Force by the scepter had it no longer, and Martynas Ragnos' spirit was finally vanquished by a knight of Luke Skywalker's order. Number 2. The Mask of Viceroy Exim Panchard. Viceroy Exim Panchard was a Sith Lord who dominated the control over the Trade Federation some time before the Clone Wars event. This Sith Lord was a madman who had hundreds of people killed for his own pleasure, most likely to draw upon their plan to fuel the dark side within him. Made of a smooth, burnished, meteoric metal, it was peppered with tiny hammered divots and featured eyes of black glass. The mask was said to contain the screams of 1,000 people, and anyone who would ever wear the mask would be able to hear those screams within their mind. This would corrupt the wearer, driving them mad and full of bloodlust. Those who wore it would be compelled to find and kill all those who they held close in their life, their loved ones, their closest confidants. The mask was a part of Palpatine's private collection of Sith artifacts, as one of his most prized possessions. Certainly one of the most diabolical artifacts of the Sith. And finally, at number 1, we actually have a twofold. We decided to include these two in the number 1 spot, since they kind of come as a package deal, especially since the user had them both at the same time. These artifacts are the Helm of Grosh and the Heart of Grosh. Dothka Grosh was a male Sith sorcerer who lived on the planet of Korriban more than 7,000 years before the Battle of Yavin and the events of A New Hope, prior to the arrival of the Dark Jedi that we mentioned at the beginning of this video. Grosh used unyielding brutality to defeat his enemies during one of Korriban's recurrent civil wars, the end of which saw him acclaimed king and overlord of his species. In the war's wake, Grosh made use of both his Sith magic and alchemy in order to perfect a spell that would resurrect an army of reanimated corpses that would fight solely for him. During this time, he also created his helm, which was able to amplify the wearer's abilities to wield the Force itself, similar to Ragnos' scepter. However, it also caused atmospheric disturbances within a radius of around 6 kilometers. At some point during his life, he had also removed his own heart and replaced it with a fist-sized ruby from his own making. This was called the Heart of Crash. When paired with the helm, the atmospheric disturbances would be amplified to great storms. In the Darth Bane novels, in order to actually make a natural Force storm occur, it required a great many Sith Lords, all performing a ritual in unison. However, possessing these items would grant that power instantaneously. It is also important to note that Force Storms was one of Palpatine's greatest abilities once he returned from Death in Legends, and is widely considered the most powerful darkseid ability in all of Star Wars lore. So basically, it wasn't any big deal at all. The drawback here obviously comes with the fact that one would have to undergo a procedure to literally have their heart removed and replaced with that of the ruby, which one can only imagine would be an intense process even for a Force sensitive. Anyway friends, what did you think of this list? If you had the opportunity, would you pay the price to wield any of these artifacts? If so, why? Drop a comment down below and share your thoughts as well as some of your thoughts for future videos. And as always, may the Force be with you, and we hope that you have a great day.